I bought $1,000 of Amazon Welders. It's like Christmas. Last month we made a video reviewing the cheapest Amazon blacksmithing tools, and we're back to do the same with welding equipment. First up, oh my goodness, that's unbelievable. There's a welder inside this.
But he must be really small.
This would go fine in a backpack and like go up a mountain with it. This is the Deco Mini Stick Lift TIG Welder. Deco 135 amp, 220 volt, MMA, portable arc welding machine kit, IGBT digital display, LCD hot start, arc force, anti-stick. Recommended retail price, £90. I paid $49.99. What on earth sort of machine can you get for so little money? That is ridiculous. How is it so small? It's basically like just having a chihuahua on lead. Come on. Oh, you're a good boy. I think they definitely expect you to have this stowed in a pocket because the cable is only one arm span long. Ugh. Ugh! Some real crunch going on inside that. It's got its own little carrying strap. Goes up to 135 amps. Need some steel. Ugh. In order to weld, we're gonna need to protect our eyes. But fortunately, Amazon has us covered. This is welding helmet auto darkening, shade 9 to 13. An auto darkening helmet for less than £30. Wow, even the peely film is crap. It wasn't so long ago that auto darkening helmets were a luxury. I remember my first welding hood was not auto darkening. It was just a fixed shade 10, which meant that you couldn't see where the tip of your electrode was. But now, 30 quid on Amazon gets you one delivered to the door. Is it any good? I've got the great luxury of having used some really nice auto darkening helmets. And the more money you pay, you typically get way more clarity, as well as a bigger viewing area. Look how massive the lens is in that compared to this. You know what else you don't get when it's 30 quid? You don't get it assembled. I've never had to assemble a welding helmet before. Okay, that goes down a little bit too far. It also doesn't. It's meant to like latch here, and then you go, so it's important that we have gloves. My welding gloves are already from Amazon, so, you know. We have big boy welding electrodes, earth clamp. So this is stick welding, also known as MMA, for manual metal arc. So this is a rod of steel, specially formulated, that on the outside has a flux coating on it. So when we strike an arc and the electrical current heats to thousands and thousands of degrees, it'll melt the base metal, melt the steel electrode, and turn the flux into a gas that'll seal that weld from the oxygen in the air to make sure that it welds. I have to say, this electrode holder is a bit awful. There's barely any groove there, so you go ahead and put your electrode in, and it's just wibbly wobbly. As compared to, there you go. Ow! My head. A proper one. You just hit your head as well. God, it's got a way beefier spring and way better grooves in there. When you have your electrode, it's actually rigid. All right, let's see, do we get an arc? Woo! We've got an arc. And, no. My welding hood does not darken. That's painful. No, it's good. It does darken. I just had to turn it up. Wow. That's pretty sweet. Try that little chipping hammer, shall we? So that flux then melts and it forms a slag that covers the weld. You have to chip off when you're stick welding or MMA welding. It's not like a better machine would have made me weld any better. That's pretty good. I'm just gonna turn down the amperage a smidge. That welding hood still has a really annoying delay. I have white spots in my eyes. This thing is turned up to a shade 12. You can definitely weld some stuff together with that. How about thicker? Should we turn it up as hot as it goes? 135 amps. These are 1/8 inch electrodes. And when I used to only have a stick welder, I found that an 1/8 inch electrode was really good for like a general metal work, like you're doing general fabrication. And this is usually pretty hot for an 1/8 inch. Oh, this welding hood absolutely sucks. I'm not going to do any better stick welding with a better machine. That's as good a stick weld as I've ever done. Let's unbox something else. Wait a second. That doesn't look right. This stinky thing almost got away with it, tricking us that it was good.
Yeah, well, it probably was good, but you got it caught on the stairs. You ripped it off the table, so no wonder that ripped out.
So you're not saying, you say don't take a point away from it?
No, and I also pulled you back with it.
Well, that's not very good. Clearly you can't drag it around like a lunatic. Next up. Yay! I purchased this just because of the name. I have always wanted a flip flap.
You've got to put it together again.
No! Got a much bigger screen to look through though, but this one is not auto darkening, so it is a fixed shade. This cost 14 Great British pounds sterling. Absolutely nothing, and oh yeah, ergonomics on the head, much nicer than the auto darkening one, the one that we decided we hated. And let's see, what are we gonna weld with? For 160 pounds, we have a 2-in-1 welding machine. This is the Simdo TIG Welding TIG 200 220 volt TIG MMA 2-in-1 welding machine, stick arc welding DC IGPD inverter welding machine. Safe and portable and powerful. Excellent professional design. Our last little guy can only weld with these bad boys, with electrodes. But if you want to weld very thin sheet steel, or weld in a very clean environment, you need to use TIG welding. You see that we do it with our titanium Damascus, using our 3-in-1 Artec welding machine that they provided for us with a TIG torch. Well, let's see how the cheapest stuff you could possibly get looks. It's an identical stinger right here. No, firmer spring. It must be made in the same factory. No. Look, Jamie. One of them is very different to the other, but they both say KB200 on them. It's got this horrible material on this. Surprisingly good length to it, Jamie.
That's what she said. With Jamie at the end as well.
Okay, this is how the machine senses when you press the button. Ooh, very interesting. So the gas goes straight through the middle there, through that little hole. It's an integrated gas supply as well as electrical current passer through TIG torch components. Question is, does it come with a tungsten? No, it doesn't. I hate to say it, but like this all looks pretty normal. That all screws on. There's our earth. Back here, we have a standard British 13 amp plug, which is a bit concerning to me because this is saying 200i. Does that mean this is a 200 amp machine running off a 13 amp plug? I don't believe it. Usually if a machine calls itself like 150, 200, 300, it means that the amperage is 150, 200, 300. So if this is 200 amps, it will not run stick electrodes off this because the little fuse that's inside these British plugs will blow. Now, one of the things that's very important to me when I think about buying equipment, especially budget-friendly equipment, is what's the purpose of it? It's for somebody that's starting out to be able to go, I'm going to give this a try, or I've got this project coming up and I need this machine for it. Don't really know a whole lot about it, but I've got to figure it out. I want to learn. And when you're at that point in your learning cycle, you want things to be pretty simple, standard. So a concern that I have is they have supplied this gas hose, but what does it fit on? Does it fit on anything standard? And this is where it then gets challenging because that needs to get into your argon bottle. But when you don't know what on earth is going on, that's quite confusing because you go, well, how on earth do I find the fitting that matches to? And I think you'd have every right to be confused because if you buy a standard argon regulator like this, it's obviously not gonna fit because that's a male thread and it wants to be a female thread. It's a very weird size. You better believe I'm gonna rate this down because it has a weird thread on it. This is what you get for buying cheap on Amazon. Naughty, naughty, naughty. 8mm push connect fitting. Will it? Yes, it will. All right, screw that on. Plug her in. Whoop. When you press the button, it sends gas. You let go, it stops gas. 20 amps, all the way to, the liars! The bloody dial says 20 to 200. You start turning it, what does it end up at? At the maximum, 142. They've lied. For TIG welding, we need clean metal. So that's no good. Fortunately, we have scraps. So we're gonna be testing the TIG welding with the TIG torch. TIG stands for tungsten inert gas. That little tip is made of tungsten. And as we know, it's very resistant to high temperatures. The inert gas is the argon, and with TIG welding, you can fusion TIG, where using the arc that's created, you just melt a puddle of the base material and flow it into the seam, or you can use some filler material. This is a little bit of filler rod, 115 amps on the dial. So I'm gonna find my spot, and then I'm gonna flap the flip. That was a bit hot, goodness. This dial is way too sensitive. Whoa! I really do want to be a big old negative Nancy about it, you know, and make fun of the cheap welder, but it's welded. It's a bit hotter than I'd like, so maybe it is a 200 amp welder, it's just they only make the digital dial go to 140. Machine definitely runs hot, I feel like. I have to say, this welding hood is lovely. I can see really clearly through it. The fact that it's not auto darkening is very annoying, but I would say if I had to buy a welding helmet, I didn't have a lot of money, I would much rather buy this than that. what you can see through here when you're actually welding is so much nicer, much better experience. This, in the trash. See how this thing stick welds? Well, that felt very nice. It's a prettier weld as well. Very small sample size, but the weld on our Simda 200i, much nicer looking than the ones on the other machine. All that's left to do is see which machine dies first, the Simda or the Deco. I'm gonna turn the amperages as high up as they go. I have a timer that's been going for 1,300 hours.
Bro, that timer's been over 2 months.
Let's weld. All right, quick electrode change. God, it's still going. Oh, it died! We killed it! 7 minutes of welding. The machine actually feels fairly cool. The plug feels fairly cool. I wonder, did we trip a fuse? No, so it won't turn back on. This plug from the extension lead is warm. Aha, so we've blown a fuse here. And goes a new one. Ah, and it works again. Now for the Deco. Go for it. Not working. Oh, it's got an error button. 2 minutes 26. E-1.
How hot is the machine?
Oh, why would you do that? The machine is mildly warm, cold, tiny bit warm.
So this one did actually fail.
Yeah. So, the limits of this machine are beyond the limits of your 13 amp plug, and you will get a thermal overload on this after 2.5 minutes of welding at 135 amps. Most of your welding isn't going to be continuous like that. It's going to be weld, setup, but it is worth noting that if you had to lay down a ton of weld, this thing might not keep up. While we're talking about tools, my general philosophy is I want as many of them as possible because I want to be able to know that in one of these drawers, when the time comes that I need something, I've got it. And so I've worked really hard to equip this workshop over the last little while so that we can make things efficiently and have as much fun. But you see, good tools and having the tools you need at your disposal doesn't just extend to your workshop, it also extends to your website, which is why, of course, I love Squarespace. It's the all-in-one website building platform that means that with no coding experience, you can build yourself a beautiful website. And those tools that I discussed at your disposal are pretty epic. As I said, it's all in one, so you can buy your domain there. Then you pick from their countless drag and drop themes before you progress on to potentially listing products. You can list unlimited physical or digital products. You can even sell access to paywall content through Squarespace member areas. You can run your email marketing campaigns through Squarespace, sell your time by booking clients through Squarespace scheduling, or even sell print-on-demand merch with one of their approved third-party integrations. Squarespace has all the tools that you need, and I really hope that you go and give it a try by going to squarespace.com/forge. You'll get a 2-week free trial, and when you use code FORGE at checkout, they'll know that we sent you, and you will get 10% off your first purchase, and that includes your domain, of course. Let's get back to it. All right, Jamie, I'll let you decide. What are we opening next?
This.
Okay. What is that? Look at how tiny it is.
These like soaked up water and they've shrunk.
No way. This looked a lot bigger in the picture. What on earth? That's a palm-sized belt grinder. Even the plug is adorable. What on earth? That seems weird. It's meant to make it tight. You see what I'm seeing, Jamie? There's no way for this to tension the belt.
There you go.
Oh. Apparently I don't know how to use a belt grinder, but you do. This is just... Look, at least it's really, really safe. Let's try this. It's tiny again. Now, I think this is another 2-in-1 machine, but a different 2-in-1 machine. Our previous 2-in-1 machine was stick TIG, but this is stick and MIG. It feels very lightweight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rusty stick welding electrodes supplied with it. Ah, yes, another KB200. Better teeth in the electrode holder. Did this come with it? No way, it came with welding wire? God, it's got the same style of latch as my proper professional welder. That is hilarious. It's just a scaled down and plasticky version of the real deal. On a MIG welder, it works by feeding wire through the torch. So these rollers here drive the wire through the torch. Gonna send it inside that little hole there. All right, so squeezing this, that should spin. Nothing happens. Why is nothing happening? Golly, that is awful. Oh, something happened. It's blooming doing it.
What do you mean, no way?
Oh,
it does
I'm
what
shocked.
it's supposed to do, no way.
Well, you know how cheap this was? This is 110 pounds. This is the Hitbox 200 amp, 230 volt mini MIG welder, flux core welder, MIG arc 3-in-1 compact MIG welding machine, inverter gasless welding machine, HMB 200. And I was wrong. It wasn't a 2-in-1. Apparently it's a TIG welder too, but I don't believe it. It's at least not like a very well integrated TIG welder, in that you can't plug your argon in. You'd have to have some sort of fancy contraption. I think it's a bit of like an exaggeration to say that that's a 3-in-1. I'm gonna call it a 2-in-1. Is it like controlling both wire speed and power off one dial? No way. There is no way to independently control the feed rate of the wire and your voltage. So it just sets it for you. That is bad. All I can do is choose 0.8mm flux core wire or 1mm flux core wire. That's it. That's crap. It's not feeding the wire. I'm gonna cut this again. Oh, I wonder if this made its way all the way through this and they've put a tip on the torch that's too small for the wire they supplied. I presume this is 1mm wire. We'll find a 1mm little tip in here. Yep, 0.8. Put this back on, shall we? It's such a joke. It's like a toy. Yay! You'll notice my actual MIG welder has a tank of gas on the back. This is a CO2 argon mix. Here, there is no gas inlet. This is for flux core welding. So this wire is hollow and has flux down the middle, effectively serving the same purpose as our stick welding electrodes. I get to try a new welding helmet. Apparently there is a welding helmet in here. Absolutely nuts. I think this exists for like when you're in really tight spaces, you know, like welding inside of pipes. That's hilarious. This is the welding mask with lens welding mask, leather welding helmet, protective mask with auto darkening filter lens, durable yellow black leather welding hood, welding mask, welding leather head screen. It said it was auto darkening. It's not auto darkening. They've only scammed you out of £14.49. Let's see what we think. I've got the welder turned up to full. Let's do a tack weld. We welded something, yay. Well, wrong spot. That actually felt pretty smooth.
Bro, you look like a minion.
Banana. If you ignore the chipping marks, that weld is not awful. That weld sucked. I did not think that was going to happen. This is a stick weld from our 2-in-1 stick tick. It's a good spot. I think that's a great angle to be at, Jamie. Good idea. There we go. Stick weld from the deco. Wow, this thing sucks! Let's try it again. Oh, much better. I don't think this should be allowed to exist. I don't think this should be allowed to exist either. Next up, the remnant of that box, induction heater. Blacksmiths have been using induction heaters in the workshop for a good little while, and I've been wanting to buy one for myself. But they are thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds, and so I wanted to see if I spend £152 on Amazon, can I get myself an induction heater that's any good? This is 1/52nd of the price of the induction heater that I'm hopefully going to be buying soon. So what this is, I think, is it's for loosening bolts. We've got some ends that have like a aramid or Kevlar sheath. We go ahead and take that, shove it in the end, and screw right there. Plug that in, and what this should do is induce some sort of electromagnetic. Ow! You up! Is induce an electromagnetic current and heat up the metal, and it's doing it. No frickin' way. 150 quid on Amazon, and we've got an induction heater. That's nuts. What? Oh crap! The coils are glowing. That's not good. The proper units have water cooling, but I think what this is for loosening seized bolts. This is a type of problem that we've run into a lot restoring machines, right, is with time and corrosion, nuts and bolts will seize and they'll be completely stuck there. And the answer always seems to be more heat. Mate, it's cooking it. Look at that, it's hot. Because as soon as you heat up a stuck nut, it then expands, and it is super, super easy to get it to come off. For some reason, it doesn't seem to get much hotter than that, though. That is pretty nuts. And this is actually a tool that I'm going to take care of and keep up on a shelf for that rainy day where I've got a stuck nut, stuck bolt, and I need to get it off. This is actually going to be useful for us guys. Last but not least, what do you think's in here, Jamie?
Not plasm, because it says the plasm are gone.
Where did they go to?
Ooh, yellow.
Hey, yellow, hello. The Susem's Plasma Cutter 55 amp HF IGBT inverter plasma cutter portable air plasma cutting machine with accessories, max cut thickness 12mm. They say this will cut 12 mil steel. I don't know if I quite believe it. This was purchased for £120. My plug lead is too short. The trigger on the torch is zip tied on. Is that the air inlet or is that the air inlet? Comes with a little regulator. that on. I don't know what this is there for, but I think this goes in there. Screw that on here. It's just so kinky. All right, plasma cutters need to be connected to air, and I'm gonna do it with my own PCL fitting here. Moment of truth, guys. All right, see how this button goes. Ah! What? Well, golly, that's pretty cool. That does a really fine job on 2mm plate. How thick will it cut? 5mm flat bar mild steel. Turn up the amperage. We'll go, say, 45. Well, it doesn't like it. Let's turn up. 55 amps. Cutting at a ridiculous angle. See if I can improve that. Yes! All right, we can cut 5mm steel at max power. Now the claim is 12mm mild steel. No chance, right?
See how much that arc is bending? No!
No! It died! Now looking at the back, as that arc and the jet of compressed air, the plasma was cutting, it was bending and shooting all the sparks out the front, but it did just ever so slightly make it through the back there, all before the machine decided to give up the dust. So that was just a fuse. It now turns on again. And that doesn't necessarily mean everything is all fine and dandy, because we use that machine on its full power of 55 amps for, what was that, 30 seconds? That's no good. If you design a machine that's then going to trip the fuse that it's designed to work off of in 30 seconds, I just don't think that's great. I think you could have a lot of fun with this plasma cutter on like a thin sheet. It obviously made it through that 5mm, no problem. I think it is a bit disingenuous to say it'll make it through 12mm, however. So I'm not in love with this plasma cutter. The summary of all this to me is that it's very special that it's possible to get into this stuff so inexpensively. When I was a kid, I wanted a plasma cutter so badly, but they were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds. But now, for 120 quid, I could have a plasma cutter. And think about the young people that could feasibly save up their pennies to buy one of these and then make beautiful art out of it. The future engineer that as a teenager is gonna get one of these TIG welders, build themselves a mountain bike in their garage. To me, the fact that this stuff is available for so cheap is really exciting, but at the end of the day, you've seen it's not all sunshine and roses. There's downsides to this stuff. What I do hope is that when you guys are getting stuck in with all the amazing tools that are at our disposal in this day and age, you don't forget that the best place to build your website is with Squarespace by going to squarespace.com/forge. They sponsored this. I'm very grateful. And more than anything, I'm so grateful for your time. Thank you and bye-bye.